Hi everybody, my name's Mark, otherwise known as the Bowler Hat Farmer. I'm here today to talk about something very, very serious, something that worries me as both a parent and a grandparent. I'm going to talk about the potential of food shortages and how they are likely to come about because of three major things that are happening inside the farming community. So firstly, let's talk about the bureaucracy. This bureaucracy is brought down upon us as farmers by DEFRA and the Environment Agency. Farmers have been farming for hundreds of thousands of years and they've got a fairly good idea what they're doing. This bureaucracy is now so heavily entrenched into our system as running a farm that it's now becoming impossible to trade. One such legislation that's been put into place this year is the offer to farmers of up to £250 an acre not to produce food, to produce pretty flowers, to grow trees that will suck up carbon. This bureaucracy, without any doubt at all, is going to make farming an impossible thing to do. If a landowner has tenants on their land, paying them £10-20 per acre per year to graze cattle, why would they keep them when they can get £250 an acre to go to set-aside schemes? We're seeing this all over the UK. Farmers being turfed off the land they've been on for hundreds of years as a family for one thing, and one thing only: greed. We're seeing lots of different schemes come into play, green initiatives, which lead us into the next topic, net zero. So a lot of farmers are being paid to put fields of good food producing agricultural land down to green energy, wind turbines, solar panels to produce electricity that we could easily get from a very safe nuclear power station. As my fellow bowler hat farmer friend Dave Baggett from County Durham points out, farming done right is sustainable by definition.
The pure bureaucracy from DEFRA, and it is pure bureaucracy, it's there to make things harder. They talk about sustainable farming. We should talk about sustainable food production, because it's food production that's important. Farms have looked after themselves for hundreds of years. They're incredibly sustainable because we've been doing it like this since Adam was a lad. And it works, and it always has worked. So let's go back to a bit of common sense, forget about net zero, and let's get DEFRA back under control and produce food.
Okay, let's take us on to the third thing. The hold that supermarkets, producers and growers have over farmers. See, lots of contracts were signed with supermarkets pre-pandemic. The pandemic created a situation where fuel for farmers went from 20p a litre to now being £1 a litre. So it's put the cost of the production to run a tractor, a generator on a farm. That generator might run the whole farm if, for instance, the electricity goes down. That's concerning, because that's put the cost of running the farm on one item alone up by 5 times. It's scary times, guys, and these scary times deserve your input. Since the pandemic, we've noticed that food is escalating out of control and spiralling to higher levels than we've ever seen before. Why is that? Is that because farmers are greedy? No. Farmers simply aren't earning enough to pay for the produce to be grown. What I do think is, out of the back end of all of this will come new opportunities for farmers, new opportunities for communities, new opportunities for the general public to buy their food, quality food, from good quality, honest British farming. There is thousands upon thousands of farmers across the UK at the moment producing videos out of desperation to try and draw attention to the industry. We have to make a stand, guys. You, me, and everyone else in the country. Otherwise, simply, there is going to be no food. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Catherine McBean, and we at the People's Food and Farming Alliance share your concerns about farming. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the bigger picture that's affecting us all, and most importantly, look at the solutions. The Plan Net Zero policies, starting from 2030, recommend all flying, shipping, food imports, and homegrown beef and lamb are phased out. All the while, farmers are being paid to plant trees or rewild instead of growing food. Seemingly, it makes no sense to do this. So why are governments everywhere following such harmful policies? It will make sense when you know the main objectives. UN researcher and speaker Sandy Adams explains.
Right now, we're seeing environmentalists advocating policies at the expense of farmers and others who create usable, tangible societal benefits from the land. In 2023, a new financial instrument was created by the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US at the request of the New York Stock Exchange. The World Bank and the IMF are involved in this as well. And it's called a natural asset company, sometimes called a natural asset class or a natural asset corporation. And the acronym, there's always one, is NACs. They're based on environmental stewardship. And this is a global initiative and works the same in all hitherto sovereign countries. Natural asset companies hold the rights to ecological performance. These companies would be given a license to control the lands, both public and private, and would be required to conduct any unsustainable activities, such as intensive farming. In effect, this means that these companies would seek to profit off the land without using the land's productivity. So how might they be able to profit from and take control of the land while not using it? Well, they profit from something called ecological performance, such as conservation, restoration, or sustainable management. These natural asset companies aim to quantify and monetize these natural outputs using a system called biodiversity net gain. It's the equivalent, really, of the ESGs in the business world. It's a way of scoring. It's called BNG, biodiversity net gain. These natural assets, i.e. the land, in the private sector, this means that large farmers and landowners would, under net zero, be encouraged by financial incentives to transfer their land into trusts and smaller collectives funded by corporate stakeholders for profit as environmental special interests or stewardship projects. Now, historically, this has happened before. It happened in the Enclosures Act in the 17th century in the UK, and also during the Russian Revolution, where large swathes of land were taken into corporate control. Sovereign nations such as the UK can provide their lands to private investors, including those outside the United Kingdom. China, for example, could invest in natural asset corporations in the UK and effectively be a stakeholder and could own the land and place them sort of off limits to future resource development for the UK. So it would be owned by a foreign entity. And I could see that not being a very good idea. These efforts continually prioritise environmentalism over human needs and growth. The Intrinsic Exchange Group, IEG, in the US admits that producing these essential goods and services and managing resources wisely is as valuable, or perhaps even more valuable, than the food production. Well, how does that make sense? How can corporate profit go over food? This is unbelievable. This concept is very dangerous as it places natural assets into the hands of corporations controlled by profit under the guise of environmental interests. This effort would be a massive, massive windfall for governments worldwide and the NACs themselves. Governments would create an entirely new revenue stream from the land that the people could benefit from, but they won't. That would solely benefit the Davos-type crowd that gives the current WEF-style system support. Both big government and radical environmentalists stand to benefit from it. It would result in profit over people, control over them, and significantly less food production. Net zero is being used as a vehicle to get people to give up their land and their freedom, all to save the planet. It's effectively a land grab. Whilst it's unquestionable that human activity has been destructive to habitats and ecosystems, is the net zero carbon reduction agenda really going to save the planet? I'll pass you over to Rachel Matthews to look at that one.
For me, as a horticulturalist, CO2 has always been something that's beneficial, as it increases photosynthesis, which allows plants to grow faster, stronger, be more resilient to pests, have bigger yields, and all with less water. CO2 makes up just 0.04% of our atmosphere, the majority of which is naturally occurring. Now, no one denies the climate is changing. It has done for millennia. But is it really down to these minuscule amounts of CO2 that human activity produces? It is a greenhouse gas and it does contribute towards warming, but as the work of Dr. William Happer from Princeton University and Dr. John Christie, the chief climate scientist of Alabama, shows, if current CO2 levels double, the resultant thermal radiation and warming would only be around 1%. And interestingly, CO2 levels rise after temperature, not before. So how is CO2 driving temperature increase when it goes up afterwards? Water vapour is the largest greenhouse gas, around 90%. So why is it that the smaller greenhouse gases of methane and CO2 are getting the blame, and not oceanic cycles, solar cycles, ice sheet albedo? Now, I'm not a climate scientist, so let me introduce you to Ralph Ellis, who is.
Let's have a look at the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect traps energy underneath the troposphere to warm the surface. The trouble is, if we measure the temperature in the troposphere, on this graph we see the actual temperatures are much less than the modelled temperatures in red. Let's have a look at CO2 in the ice ages. So here is a graph of all of the major ice ages over the last 800,000 years. The problem with this graph is that when CO2 is high, up the top here in the purple, the world cools. And when CO2 is low, the world warms. Now that would not happen if CO2 was a very strong greenhouse gas. So let's look at the possible causes of warming. Here's one. Here's a graph of all of the temperature adjustments made by NOAA in the temperature data sets. And a full 1 degree centigrade of warming that you see quoted for world temperatures has been caused by data adjustments, by fiddling the temperature record. And this is the climate computer that they use for the Met Office down at East Anglia. Here it is, and you see all of the scientists are looking at the CO2 knob here, and there's not very many people who are looking at oceans, water vapour, or the sun.
Now, the net zero industry is worth trillions, over $4 billion a day, and that amount of money can buy you an awful lot of science and influence. So entirely up to you if you want to believe that methane and the small amounts of CO2 that human activity produces is entirely responsible for global warming. Personally, I'm going to go with the thousands of climate scientists who aren't on the corporate-sponsored payroll and who think net zero is a complete and utter load of.
Hello, my name is Paul Burgess, and I'm the science guy that fights the madness of net zero and climate alarmism. What we have today is a total suppression of the truth. I can provide the simple science that shows that even doubling methane makes no difference to the climate, and that the fact of adding more CO2 to the climate is wholly beneficial and hasn't got any negative sides at all. That is the real science, and that's what I deal with. What difference would it make to the temperature? Well, if you take their figures even, you're talking about less than a 10,000th of 1 degree centigrade. You can't even feel it. It's immaterial. It makes no sense at all. But they don't give you that. What's being imposed on you is a religion. And I want to be able to maybe address you at meetings and explain a bit of the science to you that you can use. And it is simple. You can understand it. You don't have to be a scientist to understand it. So my time is free. I'm offering it free to you to help.
So what are the solutions? Many of you may not be aware of the many solutions already in place across the UK. Today we are joined by a couple of partners who will explain their solutions already successfully up and running.
50% of the food retail market in the UK is dominated by 3 supermarkets: Tesco, Sainsbury and Asda. who last year made roughly £9 billion gross profit. At the same time, farm incomes have been falling and household costs have been rising. Even local shops are struggling and town centres are empty. But the supermarkets offer convenience, late opening, 7 days a week, low prices, the one-stop shop. I'd like to introduce you to the People's Supermarket, the same one-stop shop, everything under one roof. Take your trolley in, fill it up, wheel it out to your car. Open late, 7 days a week. But what's the difference? The People's Supermarket is non-profit making, so it can pay the farmers more money for their produce. It can keep the prices keener for the customer. It can be located in redundant buildings that are lying around at the moment. But it's owned and managed by locals, for locals, using local knowledge, and each store would probably have a slightly different flavour. They will incorporate local businesses such as butchers, bakers, shops within shops, so to speak. Could it offer delivery services via milkmen and taxi drivers, and utilising local and regional abattoirs, warehousing and distribution? It could even offer additional services such as fuel sales, banking services, credit unions. In fact, everything that the supermarket has, but sharing the profits locally. We recognise that setting up local businesses like this is never easy, and keeping them going is even harder. So we are busy recruiting teams of business advisors who will help to set up these supermarkets and keep them going as long as is needed.
Hello, I'm Nick Weir. I'm a part-time grower on a CSA project and part of the Open Food Network, which is a global community of farmers, growers, community food enterprises and software geeks with a common belief that the food systems of the world are broken and we're in the process of rebuilding them from the bottom up. It's the Open Food Network's in 21 countries. This is a map of the UK. With a couple of thousand producers in the UK, shown by these tractor symbols, and about 150 shops, shown by this shop symbol. The shops may be producers selling direct from the farm, or they may be food hubs that bring together multiple producers with a single online shop front. They may be online farmers markets, they may be food co-ops, they may be buying groups, lots of different ways of getting the produce from the people who produce the food to the people who eat it using as short a supply chain as possible. One of these hubs, buried somewhere down here in Kent, looks a bit like this. This is their list of producers that are selling through their shop front. This is their shop. The shop will show a picture of all the produce that's being sold. It will show a description of that produce. And you can click there to get the description. Really bad example, that hasn't got a description. Normally the description is displayed there. And also you can click to find out who produced that food. So against every product, you can see who is the producer who produced it. You can read some contact details about them, and you can read a bit about their growing practices. And if you want more, and you can also see which shops they're selling that produce through. Because it's possible for a producer to sell through multiple shops and give them multiple routes to market, and contact details for those producers. So the people who are eating the food can get directly in touch with the people who are producing it. We believe in transparency, so against every price of every product, you can see how much of that final selling price is going to the producer and how much is being retained by the hub. So this is a hub with multiple producers, and they are packing and distributing the produce on behalf of the producer. So they make a markup, and the hub can set that markup at their own rate. The software is open source, and we believe that it's fundamentally important that if we're going to build a better food system for the world, we need to build it with different tools than the tools that we use to build the current broken food system. And we believe that the reason it's broken is because of issues of ownership and control. Particularly with the issue of 90% of the UK's food going through 7 major supermarket corporations that control and own the distribution infrastructure. So yes, open source, which means it's in common ownership. This software can never be sold or taken over or shut down. It is in common ownership, and anybody can use it. We set up the software so that whoever's using it can set up multiple payment methods. So you can take online payments, you can set up multiple distribution points, pickup points, home delivery, that kind of thing. And the Open Food Network is encouraging as many producers as possible to sign up and use the platform. If any of those producers want to set up their own shop front and sell direct from the farm, then we ask them to pay 2.4% of any online sales they make to us to cover the running costs of the platform. If the producer is selling through a hub, they don't pay anything at all. The hub will pay us 2.4% of their sales, but producers selling through a hub will not pay anything to use this platform. If you need any more details, please do contact us. We're very happy to talk it through with you. Thanks for your time.
Hi, I'm Danny, one of the co-founders of Pharmacy Co-op. We're a not-for-profit social enterprise. We launched in 2020 in February, so we've been operating for nearly 4 years now. Our focus is about helping to create the secure and resilient local food systems. So everything owned by the people to benefit the people, but also these systems will regenerate the planet and our health as well. So a proper solution. We're focused on building a national network of farms and food suppliers and creating national infrastructure, which includes operational and logistical infrastructure. As well as that national focus, we're working with community groups all over the country, focused on their local systems as well. But very quickly, what we offer at the moment is a organic fruit and veg box scheme where people can have a box collected, come and collect from a local collection point, or have it delivered to them. Various boxes, but also a create your own order, we call it, where people choose everything which goes into their box from many items we've got. So in terms of what we're focused on is supporting the farmers. What we call it a kind of new story for the farmers. We want to help them offering a secure and alternative market. So anything kind of produced, we can buy and distribute nationally. But also a lot of the infrastructure that we're helping to create is food hubs, which can have picking and packing operations focused on local and regional orders, some warehousing. We've got one in Derbyshire at the moment, which we're blueprinting and then looking to replicate this all over the country. Also, a big part of the infrastructure is the logistical network, local infrastructure where we can collect from farms and deliver to local hubs and also regional hubs. So this logistical infrastructure is national as well. So hopefully you can support us as we support the farmers and we transition into into much more positive times. Thank you.
There are also many other varied solutions being implemented across the UK, but PFFA are keen to take this further, so we're holding a public forum on Zoom on Wednesday the 6th of March at 7 p.m. Here we will share an overview of our combined concerns, but will heavily focus on sharing a plethora of solutions. Whether that's various routes to market for farmers and producers, including increased and more regular farmers markets, box schemes, or community-run local retail outlets, the milkman or direct selling, supported by volunteers, we will be sharing these with hundreds of attendees. Not only that, we will share our ideas with the public on resurrecting some small local processing infrastructure, such as the smaller abattoirs, facilitating more mobile butchers, mobile feed mixers, storage availability, and local mills. These are just some of the ideas we are working on. Plus, we will be supporting the public in understanding how they can work with their local councils to getting this essential infrastructure into place and working as swiftly as possible. To all the farmers and producers across the UK, we the people are behind you. We understand better than ever before the challenges you face, and we will gather thousands together to support you. Please do join us on Wednesday the 6th and welcome those in your community who are ready to help you find a better way forward. Thank you.